Hello, everyone. You will now hear a brief retelling of the movie Bold. Enjoy watching it. A 12-year-old kid living in the ghetto comes to a Latina woman who treats him to milk and cookies. He's there to pick up the goods, arranged in little bags. The aunt almost cheated the little guy out of one bag. No surprise there. The woman is sitting on illegal substances herself. Michael goes from one place to another. We learn that the boy has been entrusted with the job because the criminal mastermind Esteban is interested in his sister. Chili promises to finish him off if he misses the bags. Because of his part-time job, Michael is often late for school. Suddenly a bag falls out of his locker and the boy stealthily picks it up. Cheeky has a best friend, Chucky. He's an underachiever, not very good at basketball, and he just lost $6 on the card. Michael keeps staring at Rosie's girl. Finally, he pulls himself together and approaches her. Really, in his version, this girl keeps staring at him, not the other way around. Rosie teases the guy and says she likes his fat white friend. She also has a white mother and they live in a gorgeous house. Michael, on the other hand, will never get rich, and he won't get a Porsche. But things are a little different. In a secluded spot by the railroad tracks, in a rusty jar, he has stashed a fat wad of bucks and added another bill. Daring dreams of moving from the ghetto to a wealthy part of town, but for now he has to live with his aunt and share an apartment with his 11 siblings. Nicole's older sister doesn't want to live in such conditions and has packed her bags and left home. At night, the other sister asks the petty criminal not to upset the aunt who has sheltered everyone. They can't go home, and they don't want to go to the shelter. The outlet is controlled by several boys at once. They gave Daredevil the signal, and he sold some kid his first bag, so he could appreciate the local product. After that, a pregnant woman came up and the guy refused to sell to her. The other girl is so broken that she's already willing to do anything for the powder. She offers herself to Daredevil for $10, but he slaps her in the face and chases her away. Daredevil Jake, who watches the boys, was very amused by this. In the evening, Cheeky went over to the main one and complained about Jake leaving him without a paycheck. Corky held out $50 to the schoolboy, but he hit on the gangster. He didn't plow all day for $50, they owed him $100. The gangsters realized this guy could go high. In the park, the man is taking one player after another in a quick game of chess. He's playing for money, so when Michael sat down at the table, the chess player asked him to get out of here. But the schoolboy pulled out a 20, and the challenge was accepted. Pretty soon the impertinent announced that he would checkmate in 4 moves. But the man, he said, was a lousy player, so he got checkmate in 2 moves. The game was watched by Sam, Michael's father, who had taught him the game of chess. As the game begins, he instructs his son, Michael should adjust to his opponent's game if he likes to attack, forcing him to defend and vice versa. He also tells the kid that sometimes it's better to act as a team than on your own. I dried a bottle of beer puts him mate. Despite the adult criminal activities that Cheeky does, he enjoys spending time with his peers as well. Chucky has a dog that he's going to put up for dogfighting, which is totally out of character for Michael, who treats Rusco much better than her owner. But Fluffy is determined to make money off the dog and buy himself some new sneakers and a gold chain. Cheeky comes home to Esteban in charge. Tom doesn't much like the occasional schoolboy moonlighting on the slide. His product is much more dangerous than Esteban's, and so are his customers who are hooked on it. Oh, and the police don't come down on him as much. With him, a guy could run a business until he was 50 years old. The main thing is not to try any of it himself. From business to vulgar praise for Michael's sister. And this despite the fact that he is married and right now is rocking his daughter. The boss, prying into whether Nicole has a boyfriend. Bold reassures her that her aunt won't let her date anyone. But in fact, Nicole is now living with her boyfriend James, also a dealer. And he doesn't like Michael competing with him on his turf. The boy tells the stupefied Nicole about Esteban. She, on the other hand, dates James because he has a lot of product. She doesn't want to be with Esteban because he looks at her like a queen. I mean, she's just a flawed bitch. That's how James feels about her, so she's with him. On the basketball court, Michael looked at Rosie until she dared to approach him. At the same time, a very talented kid was almost single-handedly beating a team of goons. He was stopped hard by Jake and thrown onto the pavement. But the kid didn't take offense and continued to play. Then he beat Jake one-on-one again and put the ball in the hoop. The thug pulled out a gun and just shot the talented athlete. The scumbag demands that the runaways tell everyone what he just did. Only a shocked Michael remains on the set. The thing is, one bullet hit Rose in the neck and she died right in front of him. To the police, Daredevil tells them that he saw nothing but heard shots. The boy now finds it difficult to concentrate on chess. His father has noticed that it is as if Michael feels the pain of losing every piece, but he must realize that it is only a means to get to his king. You may feel that the pieces are your friends, but you must be ready to sacrifice a friend at any moment. It is also important to knock the opponent off balance. Once you've achieved that, you can attack boldly. Michael had never managed to beat his father before. Sam invited his son to his place. The trailer is littered with chessboards and filled with bottles of beer. The wall was covered with pictures of famous grandmasters. Sam played with all of them, but almost never won. But if they played in the park for a while, if life pinned them down and they risked money, Sam is sure they would break and he would beat them all. The man thinks back to Nicole. As a child, whenever she appeared anywhere, it was as if an angel had descended from heaven. So beautiful and sweet she was. Chucky moved his pet to dogfighting. Rasco didn't look like a fighting dog at all. Then Jake, the killer, appeared. He and the defiant one met each other's eyes. The collars were cut, and the dogs pounced on each other. Oddly enough, the seemingly harmless Roscoe chewed up the more formidable dog. A satisfied Chucky gets the dough, and Michael asks him not to bring the dog here again. Instead, they'll make some real big money. At home, Cheeky arranges the pieces on the board and demands his siblings that no one touch it. He starts a special game. Daring came to Esteban's house with a friend and saw Abdul's naked sick sister lying on his bed. The boss thanks the guy for referring her to him. Esteban chases Chucky out of the room. He wants the cocky one to act alone. He's sure the guy will be up pretty soon. Cheeky goes to Hector's supplier and asks him to sell him a large shipment. He was allegedly sent by Corky to replace Jake, who is now hiding from the police. Daredevil pulls out all the money he had set aside in the jar. He'll have a big shipment delivered to him in an hour. Chucky is bragging all over the place that he's going to be a tough, rich pepper now. He'll hold the neighborhood and sell the goods by the kilo. Another friend asks Michael why he's dealing with Chucky. I mean, he's so dumb and shallow. The friends went to the bookstore and picked up 2 textbooks each that had been set aside for them. In the subway, Chucky bullies and attracts the attention of a policeman. Daredevil had to handle the situation. It pisses him off that Chubby keeps getting into trouble. The boys are already being followed. They approached a hiding place in an abandoned building. That's when Jake pulled out 2 guns. A distraught Michael grabbed one of them and immediately threw it away. Chucky refused to give up the other. Here under the floorboards was Esteban's merchandise. Cheeky replaced it with the powder that Hector had handed him in a textbook. Puffy still refuses to throw away the second gun. He thinks Michael is being disrespectful to him, so he will handle the business himself. Suddenly, a car stopped in front of the guys, and instead of running away, Chucky started shooting the bandits and then fell down and dropped his gun, which went under the car's wheel. The wheel was punctured, and it pinned the guy's arm. Michael came back, but couldn't do anything to help his friend. So he had to leave him and run away on his own. The little gangster was not spared and was shot. The schoolboy ended up back at the police station, and he again lies that he doesn't know who killed Chucky. The detective leaves him his card in case the boy thinks to talk. His aunt informs Michael that she can't risk the lives of 11 other children for him, so he'll go to the orphanage as soon as there's room. At the school, the Daredevil lashes out at Michael, blaming him for Chucky's death. A car was waiting outside the house for the impertinent one, and he was thrown into the cabin and brought to Corky's house. He thinks Esteban is encroaching on his market because he started selling the same merchandise, but Daring says he wasn't working for Esteban. He lied that he was hired by Jake. The murderer was very surprised and was about to shoot the liar, but he himself was taken at gunpoint. Daredevil continued his game and said that Jake had been stealing the dealer's dough all the time. He and an accomplice had been bearing on the side for a long time and were about to become the main hustlers around Corky's business. Jake got a chain to the ribs. He insists that the Daredevil pulled the whole thing off to set him up. Except where the schoolboy got the $5,000. Corky chained his men to death and asked the Daredevil who was supposed to be selling the goods on the street. And he pointed him to James, his sister's boyfriend. He doesn't come home until after 6 o'clock. That's when you should come to him. Next the schoolboy came to Esteban and complained that he had been attacked by Corky's men. Daring again lies about how Corky is thinking of taking over his merchandise and taking some of the business. And he was supposedly told about it by Nicole's sister, whom Esteban is crazy about. He then lied that she was not seeing anyone. In fact, she was sleeping with James. James and Corky are going to take Esteban out. According to the Daredevil, the two of them meet all the time. Here we are today, after 6 o'clock, they have an appointment. Esteban soon sees it with his own eyes. Well, war it is. The driver was stabbed to death. Esteban's armed squad approached the building, and the daring one opened a candy bar to sweeten the bloody spectacle he himself had orchestrated. The entire Krusty gang was slaughtered. James tried to escape, but Esteban pulled him back in. Finding the laundry in the room, Nicole, he shot the dealer, and one fighter was lost. Chili was left lying on the pavement next to the crust. Daring paid attention to where Esteban had put the gun. The chief instructed him to dump the gun in the water and leave the car somewhere. He himself went to deal with Nicole. Daredevil demanded that the car stop and let him out. He ran to the nearest phone and called the detective. Then he went over to Esteban, as if he had nowhere else to go, and asked to stay. Suddenly the police rang the doorbell. When Esteban came out of the room, Bold threw something under his mattress. The detective came in and said the neighbors had called them. Shouting and even gunshots were heard. Daredevil said that Esteban threatened his sister with death. He also said that the boss and his men had just shot up Corky's gang, along with James, out of jealousy. Nicole says the brother is lying, but Bold replies that the sister is just afraid of authority and so she's covering for him. He also hid a gun under his mattress. Michael had stolen the gun from the bandit's car beforehand. There were also 2 kilos of powder under the mattress, which Daring had also planted. Finally, Esteban realized that the guy had him wrapped around his finger. Michael was willing to testify in court against Esteban, but only if he and Nicole were transported from the ghetto to safety. The party was over. At the park, a grumpy Sam hits on the boy for being an hour late. After setting up the chess game, he looked up at his son and saw that he was bursting into tears. If you liked the video, rate your likes and subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to leave your impressions about the movie. Bye.